And Kanye West briefly made an appearance in the Diddy Combs trial today. The rapper arrived with one of Combs' sons and told ABC News he was there to support Combs.
Yeah, well, Diane, I can tell you that we saw Kanye West walk into the courthouse here right behind us this morning, and our team got a chance to ask him, are you here in support of Combs? He nodded his head. He said yes. He then dropped off his electronics like all of us have to do going into federal court. He went into an overflow room to watch a little bit of testimony. He was just there for about 10 minutes before he then left.
It seemed like that, to me, if Kanye West is paying workers to have in front of him and his friends, ain't that trafficking?
No, Kanye West.
Kanye, why'd you show up today? You think about testifying?
Kanye, why are you here?
Kanye, who are you in support of?
Gene Deal, the former bodyguard to scene Diddy Combs, has been sounding the alarm for years, and now with Diddy facing a federal trial, Kanye West, also known as Ye, shows up in person to support him. But this moment is about more than just a surprise visit. It's about the warnings Gene has been giving us for a long time, warnings about connections that go far beyond music and fame. Gene wasn't just another employee. He was Diddy's right hand during the golden age of Bad Boy Records, present at the parties, the private meetings, the deals no one was supposed to know about, and now he's gone public, telling the world what really happened behind the scenes while most people tried to ignore it. And as Kanye walks into that courtroom, you have to wonder, why now? Why step into the spotlight during the storm? Maybe because Gene was right. Maybe the truth is darker than any of us thought, and the story behind Diddy, Kanye, and Gene Deal is only just beginning.
I believe the federal government set him up on this one, bro. Is that they found the tape in Diddy's house. Well, Diddy found the tape in his house. Did you hear about that?
Nah, I ain't hear about that. Tell me about that.
After they did the raid and everything in one of his house, he found the tape. No, he found the phone. He found the phone in his house. After they did a raid in his house, he found one of the phones, and he said that, yo, he called Christine Cohen. This is why she could be a co-conspirator too. He called her and said, yo, they left a phone, and this phone got a lot of stuff on it. Now, when they had a warrant for his whole video and his phones and all this stuff like that, you're supposed to turn everything over. You're supposed to turn everything over. He didn't turn it over. So now, what is he doing? He obstructing justice. The prosecution was trying to get that in, and because he had a phone call. And this had to do with that September the 9th, what was, I said it was the 6-9, that phone. This had something to do with that. So now, they was trying to get that tape that he had said in his own words to Christine Cohen, that he found the phone, like they had left the phone, or I believe they planted the phone, bro. They put the phone there and left the phone there, just in case. There's no way they gonna raid your whole house. They gonna turn over everything and leave one phone, and then he found the phone. I think they was trying to bag him then. I really think they was trying to bag him. I think they was trying to bag him on that. So I believe that they were trying to get at him in a way whereas that if they lose the case, they could come up and say, yo, listen here. He was obstructing justice because he never turned over the tape. He never turned over the phone, and we got proof he had the phone. Listen to this. But the judge wouldn't let it in. It was for some reason from case law that the judge didn't let it in. If the judge had to let that in, that's obstruction of justice, plain and simple right there. That was real big. That was a big thing that happened this week. And I don't understand why the judge did not let that conversation with him and Christine. And the lawyers was trying to say that was client and attorney privilege information, but it wasn't. You understand? Because he called his personal assistant first. he didn't call his lawyer about it and told his personal assistant about the stuff that was on there. So they let that rock, and that's one of the things that the defense won this week. The defense won this week, and it was crazy.
Damn, so you think they was trying to line him up then?
Yo, man, if you ever been in, well, I ain't gonna say you, but I've been in where you search somebody's house, they find everything.
Gene Deal has described private gatherings that felt off moments that stuck with him long after the music stopped. He's painted a picture of a world where silence had a price, loyalty was the choice, and once you were in, you didn't get to just walk away. Whether it was quiet pressure or outright fear, he's claimed that some of the biggest names in entertainment found themselves in situations they could escape from, and he's especially focused on one idea that people close to Diddy, from artists to assistants and even major celebrities, like Ye, might have made silent agreements they're too scared to talk about. So when Kanye West or Ye shows up at the Manhattan courthouse, where Diddy's federal trial is unfolding, people pay attention. He's dressed in all white, wearing dark shades, walking in like a man with a mission, but he never enters the main courtroom. Instead, he's directed to a separate room where he watches the trial from a monitor. No cameras, no jury, no public eyes, but still they're sitting briefly with Diddy's son Christian Combs before quietly slipping out. The message is unmistakable. Even without stepping foot into the courtroom, Ye wanted to be seen. He wanted the world to know his standing with Diddy during one of the most high-profile cases in years, and that move was accidental. That was a signal, calculated and clear.
First time we've seen any of Diddy's celebrity friends in court supporting him. It did not go exactly as Kanye planned, but here was his big entrance.
The box sit right here in the middle.
Kanye West.
No, Kanye.
Happy to see you.
Yeah.
You the last one. Still people celebrating him, which we always talk about as being kind of weird with the things he has espoused, but there he is walking in all in white, strolling into the courthouse. Bianca not with him, interesting, because we do know she is in New York with him, but she did not go to the courthouse. And there you see King Combs greeting him outside to go into the courtroom. Now, his plan clearly is to go in and support Diddy. And we know that they're close. Just a few months ago, remember, Kanye dropped a song that featured clips of a prison conversation he'd had with Diddy.
And the idea being essentially that the jury would see him there in support.
And that somehow that would help, although we'll get into whether or not it helps or hurts. We saw the chaos outside of court as he went in, but what happened inside? Our producer, Jacob Wasserman, is actually in court. He's been in the overflow room. What did you see, Jacob? Was there any commotion inside the court? Were people aware that Kanye was coming?
The best way I can compare it is like a big game of hide and go seek. So I was outside when Kanye first came in, and he goes in, and it sounds like he came in with Christian Combs and Donaldson, one of Diddy's attorneys. I guess we caught that on video. I went inside shortly afterwards. Of course, I go up to the courtroom because I think that's where Kanye is going. I go up, everyone's, oh my gosh, where's Kanye? Where's Kanye? Apparently, he never even made it inside. He didn't reach the 26th floor. One of my colleagues who's inside said that basically they were siloed off this entire time, and Kanye wasn't much of a topic inside the courtroom. I usually go to the 2 floors below, which is the overflow room, which is essentially like watching the court case happen on a big TV screen, and everyone thought he was going to come in there. So we go down, and it's like bedlam. Everyone is coming in and out every 5 seconds. They're upping security. At one point, they cleared off a bench in the back and had security standing in front of it. And it sounded like that he was going to come in and sit on that bench and watch it with the rest of us. But one of our PAs, who's also inside the courtroom, went on with a bunch of other journalists to kind of see, where is Kanye? Because that's what everyone was thinking. Is he in the cafeteria? Is he coming up here? Did he already leave? And what we learned based off talking with several people is it sounds like he was given his own private room, basically his own overflow room, which he was in for about 8 to 10 minutes. And then I assume was like, hey, I didn't come here to be in this private room by myself. I wanted to show face for Diddy and, to the public. And then eventually he left right after. So it was only there for a short period of time. And I'm not sure if other people got access to the overflow room that he was in, but if they did, it wasn't many.
Right. So the jurors never saw him, and Diddy never saw him.
Right. So
no,
and you would know.
No, yeah. So the jurors never saw him. The one thing I want to mention is, as I was saying, how I was in the overflow room and everyone's coming in and out, and it's this whole commotion. Nicole Westmoreland, one of Diddy's attorneys, came in and did a sweep, and she was looking, being like, "Oh, is Kanye here?" And eventually left. But it was just kind of hilarious, all these characters that were coming in and out, almost like, again, a big game of hide and go seek. We were all looking for where Kanye was. He apparently was in this overflow room for only a few minutes.
Yeah, and Diddy go way back. They've worked together, shared stages, showed up at each other's events, and moved through the same powerful circles. At one point, Ye even called Diddy a role model, someone who broke barriers in business and left a mark on culture. But that kind of admiration doesn't always come free. Sometimes it comes with strings that pull in ways the public never sees.
Aaron Katursky here from ABC. As if the trial of Sean Combs needed more spectacle, in walked Kanye West. He was inside for about 20 minutes. He didn't get into the courtroom. The guards made him go through security just like everybody else. He had to check his phone. And then he was taken up to the 24th floor to the overflow room. Now, I'm not sure if he didn't like it, didn't think it was the right vantage point for him, but he was only in there for a matter of minutes until he walked right back out. He was wearing this white, maybe canvas suit, and he told us that he was here to support Sean Combs. We're not sure that Combs' legal team wants him here for support or if he came on his own volition, but it certainly was a moment while testimony was going on from Sean Combs' former assistant, a guy named Jonathan Perez, who was with him from 2021 to 2024, said he set up hotel nights that he referred to as King Nights, brought the lights, brought the Astroglide, brought the baby oil. The jury saw a lot of pictures today, too, of things seized from Combs' Los Angeles mansion. 900 bottles of Astroglide lubricant. According to the HSI agent on the witness stand, the jury saw boxes of it all stacked up in Combs' garage.
We were in one of the overflow floors, and someone had came up and said, "Hey, Kanye West is here. He's trying to get into court." I assumed that they were just going to figure it out because it's Kanye West. Obviously, he's here to support Diddy, so he wants to sit with the family. He had met Christian when he got there. But I don't know if it was, there's either two things. There's a family list that's like a pre-set list.
Right.
Also, they only have a certain number of people that you can have in that main courtroom. Between one of those two things, he was not able to go in that room, so they were going to put him in his own overflow room, but it was causing too much chaos.
Gene Deal has been dropping hints for years, saying that being in Diddy's circle meant being exposed to more than just music and money. He suggested that behind the smiles and the public friendship, there was a deeper unspoken rule, one built on loyalty silence and knowing when to look the other way, so when Ye shows up in the middle of a federal trial, it doesn't feel like just a show of support. It feels like a signal, and it raises serious questions about what's really being protected and by who. Gene's interviews have pulled back the curtain on moments that sound more like warning signs than memories. Has talked about nights that went too far, private rooms set up for things that had nothing to do with business assistants, and staff given instructions to make sure certain events played out a certain way, and he made it clear this was just background noise. This involved big names we still see in headlines today.
Kanye West, he would be facing trafficking charges if it was anywhere else. But in Vegas, I don't think it's, I think it's legal in Vegas, bro. So he may not have an issue, he may not have a problem. But does he have a license to do it? That's another thing. So if the federal government wants you, they'll figure out some kind of way to get you. But it was just so funny that how was his name or his likeness or whatever was mentioned one day, and then the next day he's up in court. That was crazy. Well, he was somewhat of a protege of Diddy's back in the day, even though he was working with, what you call that motherfucker? Rockefeller, whatever that was, Rockefeller. Even though he was working with that, he was a protege of Diddy. He liked what Diddy did and everything like that. So he used to hang out, go to the parties, all that stuff like that. And I'm not saying no freak off parties, just the regular parties. He wanted to be known. So, you know, he was doing music for everybody, and he was doing music for Diddy. So I could see him being a supporter, but then when they all got big and started getting a lot of money and everything like that, they started going at each other crazy. You understand? And he felt like that because I believe Puff was the one probably introduced him to Kim Kardashian, if I'm not mistaken. I think Puff had something to do with him getting with Kim Kardashian. You know what I'm saying? Because she used to mess with a couple of dudes, a dude from BMF first, and she was around, so I would presume that Kim and Kanye West was all right back in the day, and then when they started getting money and they started going at each other and stuff like that, and then Kanye fell out with the Kardashians, and none of the people that he thought was supposed to be cool with him helped him, so he just started going at everybody. So it was strange after that whole drink trap, and then, you know, when Diddy got arrested, he did say some things because the government, he may look at the fact that government may come after him. So he may become an ally of Diddy's, but everybody that's gonna be around him gonna go down, man. This is crazy, man. You gotta realize that he has no way out of this, bro. He has no way out of this. It either has to be a mistrial or, but then if it's a mistrial, they still go back to the drawing board. You understand? That don't mean he gets out of jail. They just do another trial date. So I believe, and my prediction on this, that was just all show for Kanye to come up in there. You understand? The jurors, if you know anything about the jury and having Kanye to support you, I don't even think that's a good thing. But maybe they think it is. It's gonna, you know, throw something, you know, some kind of public opinion Diddy's way. It's stupid. That would be one of the last persons I would have coming up there to support me, knowing his relationship with the Jewish population. The stuff that he said about the Jewish population. Why would you have that man come up in the court and say anything in your behalf?
And the woman that testified that Kanye, he was a part of one of Diddy freak-offs, this is the same woman that's a baby mom of a famous rapper, right?
Yeah, it's Jane Doe. You can't mention her name, bro.
He has always dropped names, but make no mistake, Gene Deal has made it crystal clear some of the biggest stars in hip-hop and run ended up in situations they didn't fully understand until it was way too late. So when Gene saw Kanye step into that courthouse for Diddy's trial, you can bet his mind lit up. This was just a cameo. This felt like the quiet reveal of a long-hidden connection, now starting to crack the surface. And while all that was happening on the outside, inside the courtroom, things were exploding. X's former artists' assistants all stepping forward with stories that strip the glamour away and reveal something much darker, from strange aliases used to check into hotels to personal aides ordered to coordinate meetups that raised more than just eyebrows. It doesn't sound like random chaos. It sounds like someone running a controlled lifestyle behind closed doors, one that a lot of people might have known about but chose not to see.
CBS News 24/7, depending on our reporters in the courtroom and also these courtroom sketches. More testimony underway this morning in the trafficking and racketeering trial against disgraced hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. So right now we're hearing again from a special agent with the U.S. Attorney's Office, specifically in the very tough, historically Southern District of New York. She is walking the jury through records related to Combs' hotel stays in Los Angeles. So let's bring in CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman, stepping out of that courtroom to talk to us live outside the courthouse. Some pretty fascinating moments there. The jury are having to look at some hard evidence.
Reed, that's absolutely right. This jury is finally seeing videos of the freak-offs, these encounters that Sean Combs and his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura would have with other men. So they were shown them by the prosecution yesterday, and they're watching these in a way where we don't know exactly what they're seeing. They're wearing headphones in the courtroom, there are blinders on their screens, and now the defense is actually, during cross-examination, also showing them other portions of these videos because each side sees this as evidence in a very different way. The prosecution views this as evidence of the coercion of the alleged trafficking that was going on here, whereas the defense wants to show that these were consensual encounters, even if maybe some view them as unorthodox. It's also worth noting that this morning the judge reprimanded both parties. Excuse me, Reed. There was an article that came out that had some information from a sealed proceeding, and he's very upset about this. He says it's a violation. Both parties said they didn't know what was going on. He says someone is lying and he's going to investigate because information from a sealed proceeding is not supposed to leave his chamber.
Witnesses have described manipulated relationships, strange daily routines, and total control over people's lives and movements. And these aren't random moments. They happen in environments that are built to function that way, environments that Gene Deal was talking about long before this trial ever made headlines. And then there's Kid Cutie, another big name who got pulled into this mess. He testified about a terrifying incident where a Molotov cocktail was thrown at his car after things went south with Diddy, and according to Cutie, Diddy just brushed it off like it was nothing, like it didn't even matter. That's the kind of fear Gene was talking about, the kind that makes even successful artists stay quiet. Because when you're up against serious power, massive wealth, and untouchable reputations, speaking out can feel like a risk too big to take.
Kid Cudi is now on the stand in the Sean Diddy Combs trafficking and racketeering trial. He reportedly had a brief relationship with Combs' ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura nearly 15 years ago. His testimony follows George Kaplan, a former employee of Combs who was granted immunity in exchange for his testimony. He told jurors about the elaborate process of setting up hotel rooms for what prosecutors allege were drug-fueled parties called freak-offs. Combs denies all of the allegations against him and says all encounters were consensual. Let's bring in ABC's Rena Roy alongside contributor and criminal defense attorney Bernarda Villalona, live outside of the courthouse there. And Rena, just set the scene for us. What is the latest from court right now?
Well, Alex, we saw Kid Cudi walk into the courthouse this morning with a bit of swagger, a black leather jacket, wearing jeans, smoking a cigarette. As you said, he is now on the stand now, and he's already talking about some of the threats that he says he faced while he was in a relationship with Cassie Ventura back in 2011, including one time that he says Cassie called to alert him that Sean Combs had broken into his Los Angeles home. He says that he raced over there to try and confront Combs, so that when he got there, Combs was gone. He said some things had been tampered with. His dog seemed startled. He was locked in the bathroom. So he called police to file a break-in report. And he's also talking about a time from January of 2012 when he says his car was set on fire with a Molotov cocktail in his Los Angeles driveway. Just last week, Ventura testified that Sean Combs had threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car because he had found out about their relationship together. But his lawyers have denied that he had any involvement in any arson. But remember that arson is a part of the racketeering charge that he's facing. So this is crucial.
Which brings us right back to Ye. What was the purpose of showing up to court, staying just long enough to be noticed, and then quietly walking out? Was it a show of loyalty, a sign of support, or maybe something deeper? Maybe it was about protecting a connection that still hasn't come to light. Some people think Ye was sending a message that no matter what gets revealed in court, certain alliances are still alive. Others think he might be feeling the pressure himself, because let's not forget his name was reportedly on the list of celebrities shown to potential jurors before the trial even started. And that kind of detail doesn't just appear out of nowhere. Gene Deal warned us for years that there were silent understandings between Diddy and other powerful names in the industry, unspoken rules about keeping certain things quiet. And now, as you walk straight into the middle of this legal chaos, those old warnings suddenly don't sound so crazy anymore.
People don't understand. I've been doing this since 1997, man. Since I sat down with Miss Wallace, Nick Bloomfield, A&E, MTV, VH1. They all got tapes and footage on me telling the same story, telling how Diddy was way back when. So the trolls can say what they want to say. I got people even saying that I started talking about Diddy when he went to jail. So you know that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So, like my man say, you can't fix stupid, bruh. Ain't nothing you could do to fix stupid. So let them be what they want to be, man. They all trying to get clicks and views, bro. That's all it's all about, man. It's all them trying to get clicks and views. Let's get on with the show, brother. You know what I'm saying?
I heard Diddy almost got removed from the courtroom. What's the backstory behind that?
Yo, man, Diddy is, you know, I guess it's the his mind is gone, bruh. You know what I'm saying? I've seen him like say stuff to the judge. You know, like, I want to go to break now. And the judge said, okay, we'll break. And I'm looking like, damn. So this time, but the judge, he took that upon himself, you know, but he didn't take it lightly when he went at the jury. Diddy looked at the jury in a way and just started nodding his head, like when a certain person was giving their testimony. So when he was doing that, the judge immediately stopped because it seemed like he was trying to either antagonize or he was trying to like throw some kind of sign or say something to the jury that the judge wasn't even going for, bruh. The judge stopped them right there. And he told, he addressed to their lawyers, the next time Diddy make any kind of eye contact with the jury and does nod his head, yes, no, maybe, or anything, he'll be hearing about the trial from his jail cell because he will not be allowed back in court. The judge said next time. So he probably let Diddy get away with it to see how far he was gonna do it. But then he said, nah, we're not having this. Because you gotta realize the jury is not sequestered. They go home every day. And he's known for tampering with witnesses. If you go through the trial right today, you see how he was trying to tamper with some of the people by having security, D-Rock, and other people talk to them. They are saying that in their testimony.
To really understand why Gene Deal's voice matters, you have to know where he came from. This wasn't just some bodyguard collecting a check. This was a man who stood beside Diddy through it all, through beefs, lawsuits, shootouts. He was there the night Biggie was killed on the clock, and he said what happened that night still haunts him to this day. Gene kept his mouth shut for years. He stayed loyal, but eventually he saw that silence was strength. It was complicity, and when he finally started speaking out, people tried to brush him off. But now, with testimony after testimony lining up with what he's been saying, the world is finally listening. And when Gene calls out, yeah, it's not for fame, and it sure is for clout, it's because he sees the signs. He knows how this game works, and he's trying to stop the next person from getting dragged into something they can't control. Because once you're deep inside Diddy's world, like Gene says, you don't walk away without consequences.
Diddy was coming after her. And he made that clear to the jury that Diddy was coming after her. It was a lot of situations where Cassie was running from him. And he would use staff to try to find her, then go get her. It was times when Cassie didn't even want to go to the freak off. No means no. It was no telling him no. He would tell her, yo, I already spent this money. So you gonna do it. And this is the story that Deontay Nash was telling. And this was a dude who had love for Diddy, was calling Diddy. Even after him and Cassie broke up and Andre Harrell died, he called him for that. Then who else died? Somebody else died and he called him on that. He was staying in touch with Diddy. Tell him, yo, if you need anything, let me know, brother. Diddy was upset with him. Diddy said, yo, bro, that was foul. You should have told me that she was effing the trainer. And that was Cassie's husband. You understand? You should have told him. So, you know, Diddy felt some kind of way with him on that one. But this dude, he was very convincing to the jury, and he was placing people like D-Rock, I think D-Rock and Paul, in situations whereas that they were using their protection status of Diddy to try to force people or bring people into those type of situations that were unlawful. And that's the freak-offs. That was buying drugs and holding the drugs and things like that. And that's what's threatening people's lives and stuff. Having people terrified of them.
Defense in the Sean Diddy Combs trial is finishing cross-examination of one of the rapper's ex-girlfriends. But first, the judge called a private meeting with the prosecution, defense, and lawyer for the woman testifying as Jane. Yesterday, defense attorneys tried to use Jane's own text messages to show she willingly took part in Combs' life and is not the victim of force or coercion. At one point, she cried so hard on the witness stand she couldn't even finish reading those texts. Now the prosecution says they expect to rest their case next week. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges. ABC's Rena Roy and legal contributor, criminal defense attorney Shauna Lloyd are outside that courthouse. So Rena, what's the latest on this private meeting?
Well, Diane, we know that there were several issues discussed behind closed doors, and that one of them involved whether or not non-alleged victims who take the stand can use pseudonyms. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo argued that they should go on the record with their real name so that when someone hears about testimony who's outside of the trial and they might have information about that testimony, that they can come forward and offer to testify. And they were specifically discussing an issue from 2024 when Jane testified that she flew to Las Vegas with a friend of hers who's a famous rapper and then went to a hotel room where she saw a male escort named Anton having with a woman while that rapper and his girlfriend watched. She testified that that escort was somebody that she previously had a hotel night with along with Combs. The prosecution, though, wants to keep those pseudonyms, and they say that sufficient information about that event specifically and about Jane have been disclosed. Diane.
Shauna, what does this mean for the trial going forward?
What this means going forward is essentially the defense is lodging this idea. Trials are supposed to be public. They are open to everyone to come and see. And the reason historically has been so that information can be gotten from anyone who knows about it. Now, they're arguing that this is an infringement on Jane's privacy because these are people that she's connected to and events that she participated in. The defense is rebutting that, though. They want these names to be public because what they're saying is if there is some information out there that could either be used to impeach her or discredit some of the testimony that is being given, that they want those people to come forward.
Every day it gets clearer that Gene Deal didn't lie, he didn't exaggerate, he tried to warn us, and maybe, just maybe, yes, sudden appearance at that courthouse is proof that those warnings are finally starting to land. So what do you think? Is Kanye West just showing love to an old friend? Or is there something deeper happening behind the scenes? Has Gene Deal been right this whole time? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're feeling this breakdown, make sure to like, follow, and stay locked in for more. Until next time, fam, keep it real.